We started growing a little bit when Ed Smithy went as mayor, and then Charlie, it started growing faster and faster. And then the mall come along, and that they wanted Bill Sturdivant, and the Gamble boy wanted to come before the board, and they'd been waiting on North Wilkesboro commissioners to take it in over there, and they put them off. West Park Shopping Center was on the block for sale, and they kept putting it off. So when Bill called me and wanted to come before the board, and he asked me if he could come before the board, call me on Thursday, and the meeting is on Monday night after that, and I said, sure, you're welcome. He laid out what they'd offered North Wilkesboro. He said, we'll do the same thing for Wilkesboro. So the board, I butted in right then when I said, gentlemen, there's one thing about it. When it comes about it, $7 million, I said the sales tax will take care of it in a little while. So they voted to take them all in. And they put up $100,000, I believe, to run water and sewer line over there to the property for the town of Wilkesboro too. Anyhow, the mall meant a lot to Wilkesboro, I'm sure.
The Smithy store had the ice cream cooler right at the front door. George Johnston sold men's clothes on the north side. The women's clothes was sold by his wife in the middle. And there was a grocery store, which Henry Smithy ran, on the lower side.
Now, all that's in the
hotel.
Grocery store building? Oh, in the hotel building, okay, all right.
Across the street, and there was we had a drugstore there. Doc Newton ran a drugstore there where the electrical shop is now.
Okay. And the J.T. Ferguson building?
Yes.
Okay.
Had a lot of good times in there as teenagers. Mm-hmm. Then there was the restaurant. Mr. Berry ran a restaurant there. And then there was a garage in the next to where the lawyer's office is now. Mm-hmm. And next thing was a great big old two-story wooden building. It was just a square, had a stairway in the middle. On the west end was Mr. Culler's cabinet shop. Coming down was Mr. Guillory's law office. And then Hilda Alexander's barber shop, a black fellow. And he cut all of our hair. And up from there was the Try Me Cafe, which is sitting just on the other side of the Try Me, on the corner where we had a three-story building, which has been, 2 stories have been torn off now. In the basement of that was Ray Bumgarner's barber shop.
Mr. John Idle, Assistant Superintendent of the Wilkes County School System, did extensive research for the need for a local community college.
And during the community college, I started out as recruiting for the college. I think when I got to the college, they had about 60. And when I finished, we had over 2,500. Now, the community college, and I won't go into detail about that. First I heard about it, I was assistant superintendent, and they invited my wife and me over to Winston-Salem to visit the school over there. And we went over there one Sunday and visited Forsyth Tech. And then sometime later, Judge Hayes spent some time in Florida, and he'd heard about the community colleges in Florida, and he came back and talking about it at the Kiwanis Club. And when they first started the community college in the state, they allotted 13, I'm sure you're aware of that. Yeah. And Wilkes County was one of the possibilities of having a college. And so just every few days, Judge Hayes would get up to Kiwanis Club and make a talk of how impressed and how important it'd be if we had a community college in this county. I wrote all of the businessmen a personal letter and told them I'd like for them to endorse it. And Judge Hayes was well known, highly respected, and I asked him if he minded if I put his name instead of mine, because I was just a little humble assistant superintendent, and Judge Hayes was a big federal judge, you know, he was well known. So I signed his name to all the letters. And of course, if you'll notice in the application, which is the state board, somebody took a copy of it up to the professor up at Appalachian, and he pointed out everything is wrong with it, you know. And I said, well, one thing about it got a community college. I don't know, there's something right about it. It worked. But anyway, I went with the group to the state board, and of course, I had big ears. I was glad to hear that since I'd worked right much on it. They said that was the best application they had up to that time. But anyway, I had some of the information, like high school graduates and statistics and things like that already together. But we didn't have any money at the Board of Education to even have the thing printed. And I went to see, and I think that they ought to have credit for that. I went to see Vernon Deal, who was the head man over to Northwestern Bank. And Vernon said he would turn his office staff, which was Sue Allfriend, you probably know Sue, and her girls, and they did all the typing and put the thing together for me. And I was estimated it cost $700 or $800 at that time just for the printing and the books. We had to have 125 copies. And the bank picked up the entire amount and didn't charge us a penny. And I don't know where Vernon Deal ever had any credit for that or not. But you know, that was back when it was needed now.
Yeah, but you know something about talking about Mr. Deal. He's one of them kind of men that he wasn't interested in credit.
No, that's
He's
right.
interested in getting something done for the people.
He was. That's a fact.
So now that if he's finally getting credit, I mean, I know he'll appreciate it.
I wanted to be sure and get that in because without Vernon Deal, I don't know where we'd ever. We didn't have a penny that I knew of to spend it for that, you know, and I just had to depend on charity altogether, and the bank came through for us on that. And but anyway, after we got the application, went down there and they approved it. Why, lo and behold, they had that big idea of using the old schoolhouse over here at Wilkesboro for the college, and the group came up here and looked at it, and they said that wouldn't do it at all. Well, it hadn't been so long since we had floated the bond issue to consolidate the high schools, and bonds wasn't too popular in Wilkes County, and so we didn't know what we was going to do. And Judge Hayes got me, and we went to every school in the county and talked to the children about what it would mean to them and how much. And we had the facts down, how much it could go for a year here and go for 2 years and then transfer somewhere else. And we made it sound real pretty, and it was pretty, you know. And we just inspired the youngsters to go home and tell their daddies. And I remember one person at one meeting we were at said, well, it's going to be integrated. And Judge Hayes, I thought he had a quick mind. He said the Supreme Court's already decided that. And went right on, you know. And I thought that was beautifully done, you know, because
it's already been decided. That wasn't no issue. But you know, it's a wonderful thing, because a lot of those kids you talk to would never have gotten a chance to go to college.
No, that's the truth. We were going up to Union Township one day, Judge and me, and we went to every school in the county now and talked to every student body in the county. And we went to PTAs at night and traveled at night. And he kept me going pretty good. And but we was going to Union Township, and we ran over a copperhead, and I killed it, and I hung it on the fence up there. I said, Judge, we can tell people in years to come that we killed poison snakes to get that college.
This was Institutions in North Carolina in July 1963, and all the little circles. And there were just 2 concerns that called themselves community colleges at that time. And here's Wilkes, one of the largest land-based of the counties in the state. And with all, not on any border of Virginia or Tennessee, but with all North Carolina other counties around it. Yes. And it just looked like a natural for it. And then by 1964, these others had already joined it, and there was still a great gaping hole in Wilkes. And this is one of the things that John Idle took upon himself to do a survey of and get it to the people, to Governor Moore and people running the community college system that reported to Governor Moore. And it just looked like an absolute natural. And based on my experience at Lowe's, which by that time was about 6 years old, and we had seen how terrific the people are there. Now, we didn't have to tell them you need to work for a living. They knew it, and I was confident that we didn't have to tell them either. We would not have to tell them you need to study hard and you need to do your homework. We knew they would do it, and we knew they'd do well. And so that's one of the reasons that I was such a supporter of it.
Then in the mid-1960s, Wilkes County citizens had the opportunity to vote for or against a community college for county students. On Thursday, September 24, 1964, just 2 days before the vote, Reverend Jack McGinnis, a local citizen who favored the opening of a college, purchased an ad in the Journal Patriot. The one-page ad was very simple, with a headline expressing the following strong message: 11,675 reasons why you should vote for the community college on Saturday. Below this headline appeared photographs of groups of elementary and high school-aged children. The vote passed despite some opposition to increased taxes. In 1965, Wilkes Community College opened its doors with President Howard Thompson, his secretary, Mrs. Helen Potts, and Mrs. Lois Bill, who started a nurses' aid program, and Dr. William R. Richardson. On February 19, 1965, after several Wilkes County landowners offered sizable tracts of land as gifts to the institution, the Board of Trustees chose a 60-acre tract on the west side of Moravian Creek. The college also opted to purchase an additional 15 acres of land at $1,200 per acre from the Wilkes Development Corporation, which made the campus a total of 75 acres. In May 1967, the board approved the exchange of 11 acres north of the site for a like amount east of campus. On January 15, 1965, the name Wilkes Community College was officially adopted, and the first Board of Trustees, consisting of 12 members, was sworn into office. Original members were Judge Robert M. Gamble, Gordon E. Rhodes, Dr. Seth M. Beal, Mrs. C. Fred Lovett, Robert L. Strickland, Richard B. Johnson, Sr., Mrs. John W. Andrews, L. P. Summers, Judge Johnson J. Hayes, Robert R. Smoke, Lewis Hill Jenkins, and Milton J. Ingram. In 1965, Dr. Howard Thompson became its first president, followed by Dr. David Daniel, Dr. Edwin Beam Interim, Dr. James Randolph, Dr. Swanson Richardson Interim, and Dr. Gordon Burns. Today, Wilkes Community College is known for its high academic standards, Merlefest, and its gardens. A History of Wilkes Community College was published in 2007. Written by Tathel Miller, the book chronicles the college's development from its inception in the early 1960s until the present. Mr. James Larkin Pearson, North Carolina Poet Laureate from 1953 to 1981, willed his library collection to Wilkes Community College, contingent upon a space or library designed specifically for the collection. The Learning Resources Division raised the money, and the library was moved from his building on Highway 18 in Fair Plains to the new library. In time, however, that library gave way to the modern classroom building known as Lowe's Hall, and there the printing press, displays, and his books may be seen by all those visitors and students who enter Lowe's Hall. In 2008, Mr. Pearson was honored with a highway marker on Highway 268 at the entrance to Wilkes Community College. Mr. Pearson, who always wanted to be known as a printer and poet, has these words on his final resting place in Moravian Falls, where he became a printer of the paper, The Fool Killer. When most Wilkes County residents recall J. Anderson, they immediately think of history. After all, Anderson was the definitive Wilkes County historian, an avid collector of both history and memorabilia from our county's past, unparalleled in his knowledge even today. He was the main source for people seeking information about Wilkes County's past. He shared his knowledge with pleasure and with an eye for the humorous and unusual that made the past come alive for others. The Wilkes County history class that he taught at Wilkes Community College was one of the most requested courses on the schedule. In addition, his column of historic tidbits was one of the most widely read regular features in the Journal Patriot.